Sato ma satgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityorma amritam gamaya mrityorma amritam gamaya asato ma satgamaya. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.
Good evening everyone. I welcome all of you to the very first lecture of this edition of CEA lecture series. Now, I invite Professor Meher Prasad, Head of Civil Engineering Department, to speak few words.
Good evening everyone. I think I just want to give the setting, and recently, just a couple of days ago, we had untimely demise of Mr. Nagendra Kumar Reddy, which is sort of unexpected from all quarters. Okay, and first we will start with 1 minute silence for the departed soul. Thank you. So after the incident that students of UOP program, MTech UOP program second year, to which group Reddy belongs, we had a small discussion and a talk among ourselves. What emerged is one of the students, Mithun, I think who will also be talking here. He just mentioned, sir, had he taken self-awareness course, this couldn't have happened. And he witnessed that incident, and he mentioned saying that when having taken the course, it helped him come out of that situation within 4 hours. That's the words that he has used. And then he requested, saying that when it would be nice that Professor Devdas Menon talks on this particular topic. And so I inquired and I talked to Subhadeep as well as Professor Devdas Menon. He immediately agreed under one condition, that he should be introduced only by the student. Okay, so I think that's what we will do. But the comments that I wanted to make here, a couple of things, is I just want to use this an occasion to really understand, okay, such extreme things need not have to be taken by any student anymore. So I want the department to to get exposed to such themes and then be prepared and have that confidence and have that motivation, have I think, a sense of purpose such that we can totally avoid such things happening, not just in our department, for the entire institute together also. It looks small, it looks, oh, this is 1 in 10,000, but normally in engineering we won't even tolerate 1 in million. So what happened, this incident, I want it to be last from, we cannot say that because we don't know what happens in the human mind, but I would like it to be the things that we should all be aware of things and then prevent such things to happen in our campus. Okay, with that intention, just to understand what is life and other things and see a bigger picture, and that's the reason why I just requested my colleague Professor Devdas Menon to do that one. Just to introduce him, he's also just not a structural engineer, but he's also got a master's in literature. And I remember him as we are together in 80s. He was having campus there. We used to have a magazine called Focus, and he was the editor of that particular thing. And then he was also an author of Stop Sleepwalking Through Life, and then one more book that is coming up based on the course that he's teaching on integral karma yoga. So, and he also has a small I would say Thursday evening meetings with the like-minded people in civil engineering department. So with that introduction, I just want to say I still remember one comment by G.D. Krishnamurthy, that is, we should always accept. He made a comment saying that when to be vulnerable is to live, to withdraw is to die. Okay, so if you are withdrawing from anything you are working, that means you are showing the element of death. Okay, so that's what, and we should understand our vulnerability and accept that vulnerability and work together towards fulfillment of our own life goals and the mission that has been set for ourselves, or whatever divine purpose that has been there. So with those few comments, I would request Arul Jayachandran, okay, and then followed by Mithun to introduce Devdas and things. Arul.
Good evening, my dear student and faculty friends. I stand here before you more as a part of the civil engineering fraternity than on the Mitra side. But only thing is, it made us all very sad on that day. We were there, like the whole atmosphere was very gloomy. He had wonderful friends, and somehow all of us felt guilty that maybe our outreach was not that perfect. And we also have the opinion like only the official machinery alone in this particular concept can't do much, because each and every student, it should be a combined movement by the official establishment and by the student. So we are now starting many of the activities, and then we are trying to sensitize students how to escalate issues that you see. Today, the words like stress or words that of distress has been used in conversation among students, and appears most of them might be shoved under the carpet. It's okay, I have stress, you have stress, things like that. But I feel like when we are talking about the emotional health in a debate in MRC, one of the comment which is commonly came was our campus is compassion dry. And everyone seems to nod their head in agreement and say, yeah, our campus is more and more become compassion dry. It was, a very strong comment, but needs to have a look on that. So I want to make for the introduction to the meeting in two parts. Okay, the first one is Mitra is there. We have got a good, arms, a mechanism. It's a student-led type. And I would like to ask the two civil engineering coordinators to stand up on your feet, please. Okay, please look at your friends, right? If the postgraduates are undergraduates, you have your hostel coordinator. Thank you. You can sit, please. See, please escalate them. But even a small words that a student, one of your friends expresses, please escalate to the level so that at least we can have a look. Whether the students really needs help or that. So this is the official message, and we have a professional counselors. We have different levels of your outreach for emotional health, right? So please come to me or talk to them, we'll know that. The second part of it about Professor Devdas Menon. Okay, also I think more and more the society is now, or the young people seems to have less and less emotional resilience. I don't know. I do interact with a lot many students there. Okay, so I find more of the time if you reason out why, and probably it does help them only for a short time. Okay? You call a student who's in distress, we understand. We talk to them and say we try to reason out why, because I find in my personal experience it helps you only a little far. It doesn't. It's not but when people are enlightened, and that goes forever. And that's what I have come here, and it's a fantastic event that we have organized. Thanks always the lateral thinker, Professor Meher and Shubha. As a beautiful occasion, I look forward to a nice talk of that. So I have realized in my life, if a student is enlightened, because the spirit or the velocity or the voltage remains in him forever. But if you are trying to reason out by methods of all our scientific, it's only a short-term solution. So I'm very happy, Professor Menon, to enlighten us on this topic on living and dying. And of course, we're all there with you, sir, and we'll keep getting your counsel time and again in our journey. And thanks, Professor Meher, for this opportunity. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Our friend Nagendra Kumar Reddy left us last week under unfortunate circumstances. He belonged to the Kadapa district of Andhra Pradesh and was the only son of an underprivileged family who are going through emotional and financial hardships. I would like to use this platform to request for any possible help which can be extended towards this family by the student community of IIT Madras. The channel for fundraising will be intimidated in the course of time. May his soul rest in peace. Now I have the pleasure of introducing to you Professor Devdas Menon. He received the BTech and PhD degrees from the Indian Institute of Technology, Madras. He is presently a professor in the Department of Civil Engineering at IIT Madras, engaged in teaching, research and consultancy in structure engineering. His technical publications includes book titled Reinforced Concrete Design, Structure Analysis, Advanced Structure Analysis and Handbook on Seismic Retrofit of Buildings. He is presently Chairman of the Bureau of Indian Standards CED 38 Committee on Special Structures. Apart from his academic expertise, Professor Menon has also explored the spiritual path. He has authored the book titled Stop Sleepwalking Through Life, which reflects on developing a holistic approach to life. He has given talks on finding meaning and fulfillment in life through awareness and transcendence of one's ego self. I have had the personal opportunity to attend his course and feel that had Nagendra Kumar Reddy himself attended such a course, he would have had the courage or the faith to introspect about himself or the decision that he made in his life. Now I would like to introduce Menon sir to come on the stage and please talk.
Wonder what went through you during that 1 minute. It's not easy to be silent. All the secrets of living and dying, in my view, are revealed only in silence. We can discuss this topic at length. These are timeless topics which man has been contemplating on from time immemorial. Perhaps among living beings, human beings alone have had problems about living and dying. In that silence which you can still hear in the background, life is quietly flowing. And it would help if we could learn the art, an art that we currently don't teach in education, of being able to discover that silence and to be able to abide in it. At the moment of death especially, that's a wonderful way to go. We'll speak more about that a while later. I also want to comment on the invocation made by Adrija. That's the Shanti mantra which has been prevalent in this country for God knows, 5,000 years, 10,000 years. the theme is also living and dying. Asato ma satgamaya. Lead us from asat to sat, from the unreal to the real. Tamaso ma jyotirgamaya. Lead us from darkness to enlightenment. Mrityor ma amritam gamaya. Lead us from death to immortality. Amritam has a double meaning. Amritam also means the nectar of living. Death, according to modern definitions, legal, scientific, is the termination of biological processes that sustain a living organism. That's the definition. Of course, there are disputes on when somebody dies, is brain dead good enough, etc., and all that. But we all know the huge difference between somebody who was alive some time back, with whom we interacted, was part of our department, and who's no more. He chose to terminate his life. We call that an unnatural death. Untimely was a word used, but perhaps in a larger context we cannot use such words. It happened. It can happen to any one of us. It can happen any time. Very accomplished, intelligent people have also done the same thing. In the state that I come from, Kerala, where literacy level is very high, I am told that you have the highest incidence of suicides per capita. And it's not because the farming went wrong, etc., which you have in other states. It's a sad moment for those who are related or connected to the individual who dies. Even if it's a natural death, it's a sad moment. We lose something. And that sadness cannot be wished away, it has to be lived through. But that very body, which we never refer to as a body, we refer to by name. After death, we look at the body lying horizontally on the ground, and then we start using the word body. Something has gone. That which is gone is what we call life. Some spark. It's difficult to explain what has gone. In fact, we use words politely. He has passed away. Who has passed away? What has passed away? And from where to where? These are deep questions, but very important questions. Or if you're a material scientist, you could just say, finito, died. In our Indian tradition, we say some chaitanyam has gone away. That which animates all of us, and they say it's the same spirit that animates all of us, is no longer there in the body, it has become jad. In the Gita, which addresses the issue of death head on, usually death is not a topic that we normally discuss in our living rooms. We talk of good things. Death is not a good thing, apparently. But death is perhaps a good thing because it's a natural thing. It's a natural event. It happens to everyone. It's necessary from the perspective of nature. So right in the beginning in the Gita, which I'm referring to in passing, there is a distinction made between Deha and Dehi. So the body which lives and dies, the physical body, the material body, and which quickly starts decomposing, is the Deha after death. And actually, if you see the decomposition, you get scared. You don't want to look at it. You want to get rid of it quickly, as quickly as possible. In fact, all of us are actually skeletons sitting in this room, clothed in flesh and in these beautiful clothes. All of us, without exception, are going to die. That's the harsh truth. It's harsh only if we don't accept it, otherwise it's okay. It's interesting that the Sanskrit word deha comes from the root dahyati, which means something that is to be burnt. But that's what is done in many traditions. You can do whatever you want, but finally it's all over. Cremation or whatever. It's burnt. So remember, when we say deha, we are saying something that is waiting to get burnt. So it's very clear, it's upfront, it's very scientific. But when the dehi is in the deha, you have this beautiful being, any sentient being, but especially the human being, wonderful being, a being which begins like this. Beautiful, wonderful. We were all like that. Such a beautiful sight to watch. Why do we live? Why are we born? Surely not just to die. If you're a material scientist, maybe it doesn't matter. But surely there must be some meaning, some purpose. What is that meaning and what is that purpose and who says so? So you'll find there are many possible meanings and many descriptions. And perhaps there's room for all descriptions. We are now trying to know. And we are like the 6 blind men and the elephant. Again, another story which came from our country. You all know about the story. It's ironical that 6 blind men went to see this creature called the elephant. They can't see, they're blind. And each happened to touch one part of the elephant and said, I know what this elephant is. So the person who touched the trunk said, this feels like a snake. The person who touched the tail said, "No way, this is like a rope." Person who touched the leg said, it's a tree, it's solid. The person who touched the sides said, "No way, this feels like a wall." And the person who touched the, what do you call those? Tusks, said, "This feels like a spear." It's none of those things you say it is. And they argued and fought, much the same way as many of us argue and fight over so many issues, especially religious ones. But we know the reality is that all had said some truth, a partial truth, but not the whole truth. The whole truth remains a mystery, and it's not even the sum of the parts. Life and death is like that. It's a supreme mystery. To experience the mystery itself is one of the best things in life. We are normally uncomfortable with the unknown. And our perennial quest has been to make the unknown into the field of the known. And life cannot be captured like that. Whatever we capture is not life. The first thing, if you're really serious about understanding these questions, it's probably worth exploring. Which means we have some idea, like the person who's holding one part of the elephant, and our previous experience and our initial conditions tell us that it feels like this. But when somebody else says it's something else, then the only way to learn, and we must respect that all opinions have some basis to them, the only way to learn is I have to take the exact viewpoint of the other person. For that I have to let go. I have to let go of my position. It's something very difficult for many of us, and the older we grow, the more hardened we become, the more difficult it is to let go. Letting go is like death. Letting go is death, and is necessary if we want to grow, if we want to regenerate. And death actually enables life. So when I let go of this position and I go and hold the tail and I say, "Oh my God, now I know why he says it's a rope." And that is the humble way to learn. That is the only way to learn. By beginning with the beginner's mind. Says, I know something, but it's incomplete, it's not everything. Science tells us that life commenced in this planet Earth, which is just a little speck in the universe. Right now only on the planet Earth, as far as we know. And though the Big Bang takes us back 13.7 billion years ago, and you have this massive explosion and condensation of gases and solar systems forming, the planet Earth, it is said, is only about 4.5 billion years old, and life somehow emerged 3.5 billion years ago, and this is one theory. This is somebody holding the trunk and giving something, which is fair enough, has its place. And then there was evolution, etc. And today we are here. So if someone asks, what is your date of birth? Normally you would give an answer. Let's say it's today, 30th September. Incidentally, today also is a day of death. The month of September is dying. 30th September, and only if the month of September dies can the month of October emerge. 30th September, let's say 1958 or whatever. But that's not true. It's really not true. It's not true because, again, scientists tell us that roughly 9 months ago itself you were conceived. It's true. In your mother's womb, and because it was impregnated by a sperm of your father. One among millions of sperms swimming around. Everything is a miracle. And then you emerge from a single cell. But you, as you are now, were somehow there then. And you have unfolded out after 50, 60 years into what you are now. And that child was what we were. The child died, the teenager came, the teenager died, the adult came, the adult died, the old man has come, and the old man is also going to die and get transformed into God knows what. But it's more interesting if you go back. These are just reflections. I'm just sharing with you, okay? Nothing to fight over. But I think you're all in agreement because it's so obvious. But it's not true. If we were there potentially in the womb of the mother and in the sperm of the father, they themselves emerged from some mothers and some fathers. So potentially you have to trace your history all the way back to the Big Bang. That's our date of birth, apparently. 13.7 billion years ago. We all came from the same source. And so when some religious teachers say that we are all one, maybe it's not such a far off thing. Physically, materially, we came from the same source. What happened before that? Because something cannot just come. What happened before that? Nobody knows. Even the scientists don't know. They can only trace to the last, 10 raised to minus 99 seconds. This explosion took place, space and time emerged, etc., etc. Before that, no idea. In the Indian tradition, that from which all this emerged was given a name. The name can never describe everything. It was said to be Tat. Tat Tvam Asi, for example. Tat. From that apparent nothingness, if you want to say, describe it in that manner, everything has emerged, is emerging, is continuing. So life and death are just processes which are ongoing, which apparently are beginningless and endless. I stay in a C-type quarters and we have a balcony and it's beautiful. We have so many trees around us. There's one particular tree that I was very fond of. It's not there now. The tree has been killed by our engineering unit. My house itself has been destroyed. That house where I lived, I was thrown out of the house because we had to make way for 96 flats. That's the way things are. I can sit and moan over it, or I can say I'm giving room for fresh life. Well, let me go back to that day. 4th Cross Road, beautiful tree. to sit in the balcony and just look at it. Still remember the texture of the tree and the knots in it, One knot actually looked like Ganesha. So I used to speak to the tree. And slowly you can see that at some time of the season, the leaves change color from green to brown, and then slowly they start falling. One leaf falls, 10 leaves fall. And one fine day, there's not a single leaf left on that tree. And in its stark nakedness, still the tree has a tremendous beauty like this child has. Tremendous. And actually you realize that death is also beautiful. Death and life are not nouns. In fact, the English language does injustice to everything. There should be only verbs. When we say, we give name, Subhadeep, we are referring to a process called Subhadeep. There's nothing constant, there's nothing permanent. You can't even hold it for a moment. It slips away, it changes, it mutates, it grows, it dies, it regenerates. So if you can just step out of a narrow perspective of what life and death is and view it as a cosmic enterprise of which you are an important small part, it's mind-blowing. And it is true. It is true. Let me come back to... No, let me finish that story. So I used to watch what happens to the leaf. So let's say I'm one of those leaves which fell into the ground. It's all swept, and we have a wonderful swarm here which collects everything and puts it all somewhere. And if you were to trace the journey of that leaf, there's nothing called date of death also. Just like date of birth is a myth, date of death is also a myth. That leaf is lying somewhere, and you'll find that slowly it's being consumed by ants. In fact, one great thing in this campus is there are ants all over the place. They enter into a house. They are there on the trees. They seem to like the leaves. If they are not there, there are bacteria that you cannot see. And slowly and surely that leaf disintegrates. Well, we use words like disintegrate because we have some ideas of what should be integration. All false ideas. It's a natural process. And it becomes humus, becomes soil, it becomes the source for fresh life. New trees grow with it. So life is a river that flows perennially, and moments live and die in that river. He was very strong in some of his statements. Okay, I want to begin with that, then I'll go down. So he's talked about the leaf on the tree. He says, do you think a leaf that falls on the ground is afraid of death? Do you think that a bird lives in fear of dying? It meets death when death comes. But it is not concerned about death. It is much too occupied with living, with catching insects, with building a nest, with singing a song. Beautiful songs. I mean, the mornings are so wonderful because you wake up to those songs. flying for the joy of flying. Have you ever watched birds soaring high up in the air without a beat of their wings being carried along by the wind? How endlessly they seem to enjoy themselves. Look at that kid. Not an IIT PhD student, but in a sense far superior to all of us. It's enjoying itself. It's in a state of bliss, ananda, just like the birds. They are not concerned about death. If death comes, it is all right. They are finished. There is no concern about what is going to happen. They are living from moment to moment. That's the secret. Birds die, snow melts away, trees are cut down or destroyed by storms, and so on. But we want everything that gives us satisfaction to be permanent. That's the big difference. We want our position, the authority we have over people, to endure. We refuse to accept life as it is, in fact. We cling to our family, to our traditions, to our society, to our names and our little virtues. And let's be honest, so many people are dying. The first thing, especially faculty and students in IIT are concerned about, is what is the media going to say? Because they'll immediately say, IIT pressure has killed, and they'll form and committees have been formed to investigate how we put the students under such severe pressures that they have to take their lives. So we are afraid of losing our name. We are afraid to lose the things we know and are proud of. But why do people die like that? People die like that not happily, that's for sure. In fact, we sometimes worry ourselves to death. Some of us are still living, but we are still worrying a lot. And here's the advice Krishnamurti gives at the end. He says, don't carry over your worries from day to day, from hour to hour, from moment to moment. That's a clenched fist that we have. Let go of all of that. And you will see that out of this freedom there comes an extraordinary life that includes both living and dying. Death is only the ending of something, and in that very ending there is a renewing. That's a very powerful line. Death is only the ending of something, and in that very ending there is a renewing. Life has no permanency. Life has to be discovered from moment to moment, from day to day. It has to be discovered. It cannot be taken for granted. And you'll see most of us are really not living. Arey, chalta hai. If you ask somebody, how are you? Theek hai. Going on is what they say. What's going on? Life is going on or something else is going on? Life is not. Life cannot be going on. That child will never say going on. Child won't even answer you. It's really dancing its way out, celebrating life. If you take it for granted that you know life, you are not living. 3 meals a day, clothing, shelter, sex, your job, your amusement and your thinking process, that dull, repetitive process is not life. Life is something to be discovered, and if you cannot discover it, if you have not put aside the things that you have found and hoarded Do experiment with what I'm saying. Put aside your thoughts, your philosophies, your religions, your customs, your racial taboos, and all the rest of it, for they are not life. If you're caught up in those things, you will never discover life. And he adds one line, and the function of education surely is to help you discover life all the time. The function of education is to help you discover life all the time. That's why we're having this session here. The death of one of us is an incidental thing. We are the ones who are living, and we must know how to live. But often, this is what affects us. At any point of time in the day or night, we are looking like that. Okay. Probably the right side of this circle is all reasonably good, really happy, serene, peaceful, but then this also comes like night and day, like the waves of the tide. It comes, it surely comes. The only difference is what is the frequency and what's the amplitude. When things are really great, we celebrate, but with the same intensity we mourn when things go wrong. We are tossed and turned by the vicissitudes of life. So why do we live? Why is the child there? Surely there must be some meaning. And that's something that we need to discover. And look at the child. The child is learning to walk. Nobody is taught it. It's not looking at some manual, or it's not seeing some app that shows how to walk. It just knows. All the animals operate like that. They just know. They know how to live. And that exploration is unstoppable. The child is so adventurous, it wants to do, it wants to move on with life, it wants to explore. But as it grows into an adult, you'll find somewhere we stop all that exploration and we look like this, First year students, when they come, you can see they're like this child. They think that IIT is a heaven, a paradise that they've dreamt of. And that excitement lasts, I don't know, it's getting shorter nowadays, 6 months, whatever. And by the time they're in third year, fourth year, they look like 80-year-old retired people. I'm not finding fault. But then what are you losing? You're losing life. And life is perennially meant to be enjoyed.